Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I thought I would talk about diets. Now I know that can be quite scary and quite a confusing topic to talk about. There's so many different diets out there and you might just be thinking, what are they and what should I do? Hopefully I might be able to help you out with this video. Now this can be an extremely overwhelming topic to talk about, so today I'm going to break down 10 popular diets and hopefully help you figure out which one is going to be best suited for you. So today we're going to be looking at the whole food diet, an animal-based diet, carnivore, keto, low carb, paleo, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, a calorie deficit, as well as the vegan and vegetarian diet. So obviously I do have my own opinions and recommendations on all of these, and I'll let you know about that at the end of the video. So I'm going to break down simply what the diet is, as well as look at the positives and the negatives of doing each of these diets. Let's get started. Firstly, we're going to look at a whole food diet. So just like it says on the tin, whole foods, it focuses on whole and real foods, avoiding the processed foods, the refined sugars, as well as the artificial ingredients. A lot of this diet ends up being home cooking as well as fresh ingredients. So you can have your fruit, veg, protein, whole grains, nuts, seeds. Like I say, as long as it's whole and it's real. So what are the benefits of a whole food diet? So the foods are very nutrient dense, providing vitamins, minerals and antioxidants. Also, due to fiber-rich foods, it's going to improve digestion. It's also said to reduce risk of chronic diseases. You're also going to have better energy. You're going to have a more constant flow of energy, unlike having the spikes and crashes that you typically get with refined sugars. So if they're the benefits of a whole food diet, what are the negatives? So a negative can be that it is actually quite time consuming, having to cook and prepare these foods. You've not just got something that you can just bang in the microwave and set and it be done in 5 minutes time. Due to the lack of ingredients and additives in foods, it actually ends up being a higher costing food as a result. So there's a potential that you may end up spending more money than you typically do on a really ultra processed diet. There's also limited convenience. Again, like I said, you can't just bang something in the microwave for 5 minutes. There's less pre-made on-the-go snacks. You kind of got to be a little bit more creative, or you just go for your fruit and veg. Moving on to the next diet, the animal-based diet. Like the whole food diet, it kind of says what it is on the tin. It focuses primarily on animal-based products. It minimizes or eliminates plant-based products. And if you do have any plant-based products, your chances are you're going to be choosing a lower carb version of these fruits and veg. So on an animal-based diet, you're going to be eating meat, fish, eggs, organ meats, honey, dairy. So the positives of this diet. The foods are nutrient dense, with the nutrients being more bioavailable than what they are in the plant sources. It produces a greater feeling of fullness with the high fat and high protein contents, and again can reduce the risk of chronic diseases. The negatives of the animal-based diet are quite similar to the whole food diet. It can be time consuming, having to prepare and cook all the food that you're eating. Again, for the quality of the food, you're going to have to be paying a more premium price. There's also social and lifestyle constraints, again with the food not being as quick on the go, or if you're out in social environments, it might not be the easiest to adapt to it. So the carnivore diet. Exclusively consuming animal products and completely getting rid of all plant-based sources. With the optional choice of dairy, the diet consists of meat, fish, eggs, bone broth and organs. So what are the positives? A lot of people say this is a very simple diet, making it very easy to actually follow and stick to. With the high protein and high fat content, there's always that feeling of fullness when you're on this diet. Again, there's improvements to health problems. It can reduce your cravings and even stabilize out your blood sugar levels. Again, they're nutrient-dense foods that can provide all your vitamins and minerals. But there are some negatives. There is a potential that you could be missing out on a few nutrients that you do get from plant-based sources. Again, there's the social factors of if you're out and your lifestyle, it might not always fit around it. And again, the cost of getting more quality and less ultra-processed ingredients might be a bit higher. So the keto diet. What is it? So the keto diet is a type of low carb diet. It's a high fat and low carb diet that focuses on shifting your body into a state of ketosis, where the body primarily uses fat instead of carbs as its energy source. Ketosis is where your liver changes your fat molecules into ketones, using that as your body's main energy source. The macros are typically broken down with your fats being 70 to 75% of your calorie intake, your protein being 20 to 25% of your calorie intake, with carbs being anywhere from 5 to 10%, which is 20 to 50 grams of carbs for the whole entire day. Depending on how your body actually processes carbs, most people will probably have to go more towards the 20 grams a day. So what are the positives of this diet? Mainly it's weight loss. A lot of people go on this diet as a way to lose weight. The high fat and moderate protein can increase that feeling of fullness and ultimately reduce the number of calories that you're consuming per day. It's extremely beneficial for people with diabetes or even insulin resistance, as it can stabilize our blood sugar levels. The stable source of energy from the fats as well can help with mental clarity, and there's also the potential of reduced inflammation while on this diet. What are the negatives? So one thing people do seem to notice is the keto flu. This can last for a couple days to a week, and this is actually as your body adapts to the way of eating. Dependent on how many plant sources you put in there could be a potential of some missed nutrients. Some people do find this diet hard to maintain, and it definitely has its social challenges when you're out and about. So next, the low carb diet. Obviously very similar to the keto diet. Unlike the keto diet, it is actually a little bit more flexible when it comes to carbs, with your carbs being actually in a little bit higher percentage of your calorie intake. The diet focuses on reducing carbs while increasing your fats and proteins. So typically while on this diet, your macros may look like this. Your carbs at 10 to 30%, which is actually more 50 to 150 grams a day. Your protein at 20 to 30%, and your fats at 40 to 60%. This also means it can be slightly more customizable, especially compared to the ketogenic diet, depending on what your goals are. So what are the positives? Again, weight loss. That feeling of the higher protein and higher fats, giving you a greater sense of fullness and reducing the calories. It also pushes your body into a state of using more fat as fuel rather than using carbs that you eat. Again, it stabilizes out the blood sugar, and like I've already said, it's a bit more flexible than the keto diet. So the negatives, again, like keto, but not as common, people sometimes experience a bit of flu-like symptoms when adapting to the diet. There's potential of social challenges, as well as potentially some missed nutrients from plant-based sources. Again, it depends on what foods you're exactly eating on the diet. For both the low carb and the ketogenic diet, especially mostly the keto diet, tracking is kind of a bit of an essential if you're wanting to make sure you're hitting your specific macro goals. So the paleo diet, sometimes referred to as the caveman diet, it aims to mimic the Paleolithic era. It's based upon the idea that our bodies are better adapted to the foods that were available to us before agriculture was introduced, like your grains, your dairy, and your processed foods. It emphasizes on whole, unprocessed foods that could be hunter and gathered. This includes meats, seafoods, fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, healthy fats. It excludes grains, dairy, beans, and refined sugars. So what are the benefits of the paleo diet? Nutrient density. It can reduce inflammation as a result of not having any processed foods. It can improve your blood sugar levels, and there's this feeling of fullness with the high fat and high protein content. It can also support digestive health by removing common irritants like grains and dairy. But what are the negatives of the paleo diet? Again, there's this higher cost by having better quality foods. There's the social challenges where it can be quite limited, and some people can even find it really hard to follow with it being quite strict. So the Mediterranean diet. This typically follows the diet of Mediterranean countries, mostly like Greece and Italy. It minimizes processed foods and has a priority on healthy fats, lean proteins, fruit and veg. It's also heavy on food quality. So what can you eat? You can have fruit, veg, whole grains, healthy fats, lean protein, dairy, herbs and spices. The Mediterranean diet emphasizes social and mindful eating, enjoying meals with friends and family, prioritizing local and seasonal produce, as well as practicing moderation. What are the positives of this diet? It's great for heart health, longevity and disease prevention. There's anti-inflammatory effects from fruit, veg and omega-3s. There's also weight management. People will lose weight because they're having that feeling of fullness, as well as learning how to moderate your food. But again, there are some negatives. Using locally sourced and seasonal ingredients, there may be a higher cost. There's also a potential of the overconsumption of fats on this diet, which will lead to higher calories and potentially not have that weight loss that you may be looking for. There's a limitation typically on red meat, which may result in a lack of some nutrients. There's this time management on the preparation and cooking of the meals. So intermittent fasting. It's less so than a diet, but actually a pattern of eating. It doesn't necessarily restrict what you eat, more so when you eat it. So there are a few popular different methods of how you can intermittent fast. One being 16-8. It's 16 hours of the day you don't eat, and an 8-hour window where you do eat. There's also the 5-to-2 method, where 2 non-consecutive days of the week you consume 500 to 600 calories. There's also a 24-hour fast, you either do this once or twice a week. There's also the alternative day method, where you swap your days between fasting and non-fasting, or potentially on your fasting days consume very minimal calories. There's also the 1 meal a day method, where there's 1 hour eating window where typically you'd have 1 meal and the other 23 hours of the day you fast. So the positives of this diet. Again, weight loss and fat burning, as you may naturally reduce your calorie intake. There's an improved insulin sensitivity. It can enhance your cellular repair. It can also improve your mental clarity and focus, as well as being quite simple to follow as it's not restricting any of the foods you're eating. But the negatives, especially when you're first starting, hunger and cravings can be quite high. Because it may naturally lower your calories, there may be a lack of energy. With you eating less, there's a potential that you may be missing out on some nutrients. It's also not suitable for everybody and their lifestyle. A calorie deficit, again like intermittent fasting, less so than a diet but actually a way of eating. Simply put, it's consuming fewer calories than what your body puts out. Even though it doesn't restrict food, usually there's an emphasis on managing portions and potentially choosing nutrient-dense foods. You can either reduce your calorie intake, increase your physical activity, or do a combination of both. And what are the positives of this? Like we keep seeing, weight loss. You're going to be reducing your calories, which ultimately means you're going to be burning fat and ultimately losing weight. There's a flexibility with food types, you're not being restricted as to what you can eat. Because you're now aware of how much you're eating, it can encourage you to eat healthier options. It can also improve your awareness of calories and portion size. So the negatives. Again, you're eating less, there's a potential of nutrient deficiencies, especially given what foods you choose. There also may be a chance because you're reducing your calories, there are going to be feelings of hunger. Because you're only focusing on calories, you might not be focusing on the quality of your foods. This is also not suitable long term, as the body can adapt to having this lower calorie and ultimately that become your maintenance calorie. It can also become physically and mentally draining after a sustained period of time. If you're not doing the correct resistance training or protein consumption, you may also lose muscle. So the vegan and vegetarian diet, obviously these are plant-based diets. So the vegan diet is unprocessed plant foods and the exclusion of all animal-based products. Vegetarian diet, there are a few different versions. So you can have the lacto-vegetarian, which includes dairy but not eggs, the ovo-vegetarian, which includes eggs and not dairy, or the lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which includes both dairy and eggs. So the positives of a vegan or vegetarian diet. Like a common trend, there's weight loss. Your chances are you're going to be lowering your calorie intake and burning fat. There's also a potential of going to this diet, you're dropping all your processed foods and actually ultimately just eating some cleaner foods in general. And with a high fiber content, there's also can be improvements to your digestion. But what are the negatives? Without meat, you can become quite nutrient deficient in B12, omega-3, calcium, vitamin D, zinc and iron. Again, there's also social challenges. There may not be as many on-the-go products, or if you're out and at a meal, it might be a bit harder. There's also a lot of processed vegan or vegetarian foods that can be very high in sugar. So there's a look at all 10 different diets, what they are, the positives and the negatives of them. So overall, there is a trend, especially when it comes to the negatives of the diet. They end up being a little bit more time consuming when you're having to prepare and actually cook your meals from scratch. They can be a higher cost depending on the quality of the food that you're going for. And there may also always be a slight social challenge if it's because you want that on the go products, or if you're going out with friends and family, it may be a bit hard, especially at restaurants where you might not be able to stick to what your diet is 100%. I will say there's never going to be a one size fits all with this trick, and sometimes you've got to try a few different things to figure out which one is going to suit you. So with any of these diets, there's an element where I would say to track your calories, not necessarily to be in a calorie deficit, but to actually more make sure that you're not over consuming on certain foods. My advice is if you can go for something where you're consuming unprocessed, real, whole foods, that is going to be the best option for you. What you consume is going to have one of the biggest impacts on your health and your body overall. But I do also recommend exercising, resistance training, going for a walk, doing cardio. Find something that you enjoy and stick to it. Whether it's 2 times a week, 5 times a week, 7 days a week, find out what works best for you. If you're making a strict and sudden change to the way in which you're eating, there is going to be a strong mental battle happening. And when you swap to a new diet, it may take 3 to 4 days, maybe even longer, for your brain to stop craving the feel-good chemical that's released when you have high sugar and refined carbs. And after you finish a diet, Try to remember all the things that you've learned along the way. Try not to slip back into your old routines, because if you do, it will actually become harder for you to come out of that routine again. And when you fall back into this, you tend to fall back into it even further than where you were before. So I'm not a doctor, obviously, in any shape or form. I just want to give you my opinions and hopefully give you some advice and some guidance to help change your journey, change your life. Hopefully this video has helped you see different ways of diets and see how some of them are actually quite similar, or maybe even prove to you, okay, I shouldn't do this, but these ones seem like they might be doable for me. If you are thinking of doing any of these diets, go ahead, do a bit more research, figure out exactly what it is that you want to do, what's going to fit your lifestyle. Think about your goals and what it is that you want to achieve by going on this diet. And I wish for every single one of you out there that has been confused and overwhelmed by diets that you can find something that works for you and it can make the change that you want to happen. All it takes is a little bit of discipline and focus, and trust me, you will feel 100 times better for it. Whether or not you do any of these diets, or if you do them for a few weeks or a few months, I do truly wish you the best. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a big fat thumbs up and subscribe down below. If there's any more information you would like to know, please just let me know. And if there's any other videos you want to see me do, also let me know. I have also personally tried out the Carnivore Diet myself, so make sure to go ahead and check out that video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Remember, join the Dino Squad, and I'll see you later. Bye.